Welcome to a series on breaking down sun salutations. So we've been working on breaking down a Surya Namaskar sequence, a sun salutation sequence, into its individual poses. And this is week 1 where we look at forward bends. In the previous video, we just learned how to work the legs, the quality of the kneecaps, and how important that is on performing very good sun salutation forward folds. And we looked at grounding the femur and making the leg active and different situations where we collapse the ankle and how to address that. So I would really recommend watching the first video and practicing those exercises for a few days, and then we can move on to working on the hamstrings. So in this video, we're going to be looking at a few different ways that we can go about working on the hamstrings. So with that, let's start our practice. So usually the format here is I demonstrate and then we practice together. You feel free to pause the video and do the exercise before the next one. So here we go. All right, so here we are. So if I am doing a sun salutation, I'll show you which pose we're working on. So I stand on my mat, right, on my Tadasana, Samasti T. I come up with my arms and I come down here on my forward fold. So here sometimes the instruction is to bend the knee, and I'm showing you why it is that it's so important to learn how to practice this forward fold, coming up from the forward fold or going down into it with very straight knees. So what we talked about in the previous video was that yes, in an emergency to your lower back, you can bend the knee. If the back goes out, during the cycle, please bend your knees to come out. But the reason we bend the knees is that we tuck the pelvis to protect the lower back so that we can come up. What this will do is it will allow you the cardiovascular exercise of the sun salutation, because it creates that kind of sweat and all of that heat, but it will never address the tightness in the hamstrings, right? So it's not really going to work on that in a way that you can intelligently build that awareness in the hamstring and then start stretching it. So you're not addressing the problem really by doing that, I would argue. So let's learn how to have the ability to really straighten the knees. Here, keep the knees straight without hyperextending. And we do that mainly by working on the hamstrings, the rotators, and all of that. So that's what we'll do today. So I recommend using a belt here. And if you need support for your head, you can use a blanket, but we'll need a wall and our mat. All right, so here we go. We will grab a blanket if you need it for your head. And then I'm gonna lay down on the mat. And this is an exercise we can do, if you do it for 6 months every single day, you'll see a huge improvement, but even just a week. It's a very effective way to work on the hamstrings, to help any pain or weakness in the lower back. I couldn't recommend it more. So we come and lay down here, where we're bringing the skin of the back of the body down towards the sacrum, and I have both feet on the wall there, supported and pressure, keeping a little bit of pressure against the wall. I'm gonna start with my left leg straight first and my right leg up. So I'm gonna start with a few movements like this. And so when I grab my shin, I make sure that I put my hand on the middle of the shin and not on the knee. So middle of the shin. So here we go. Middle of the shin. And we'll go through a few movements. If this is too difficult, go ahead and put the hand behind the hamstring here. That's fine too. Okay. And we're going to start practicing the rhythm of the breath. So exhale. Okay, so inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So do about 10 reps of these, making sure that you're not holding your breath or any tension in the eyes, the ears, or the throat. All right, so after you've done a few of these, then take a few breaths here with both legs against the wall. And grab your belt. Bring the leg towards you. Put the belt around the foot if you need it. And bring the leg up. So maybe I'm here. Maybe my knee's still bent here. My goal is to straighten that knee. But I'm really working the leg that's on the ground. I'm pressing this foot against the wall as hard as I can. I'm keeping that leg active and that kneecap lifted. So in the previous video, I explained about lifting the kneecap, about keeping the leg active. So if I were to make a fist, my hand is just passive. I make a fist with the hand, and now those muscles are active, right? They're actively engaged. Same thing with the muscles in the leg. Make them active as if you're making a fist with those muscles. And slowly start straightening the leg. So can I straighten? If my leg is shaking, I have a different way that you can do this. So if your leg isn't shaking, keep the leg up. If you're able to hold the leg here with your hand, go ahead and hold the leg with the hand. Keep the knee very, very straight. Think of lifting this kneecap. Lift the kneecap of the leg that's on the ground. And this leg here is the brain of the pose. So I'm just going to demonstrate in case this is where you are or this is where you are. Keep the bottom leg very active. Lift that kneecap and never allow this leg to just be casually there. So this leg is active, rounded, and pushing the wall. Then work on releasing the groin here so you're not holding tension. So the same way we don't hold tension in the eyes, the ears, the throat, don't hold tension in the groin or this groin. Okay, and so then we bring the leg down. Inhale, exhale, bring the right leg to the wall and do the exercise one more time on your opposite side. So if this is too much and the leg is shaking, I will show you a way that you can work on it. So you can bring the belt here to the part of the hamstring where it's the tightest. So if this, let's just say right here is this big knot, it's very, very tight. So I put the belt right above that, right? So the tighter spot is below the belt. I bring the belt towards me and down towards the floor. And that will allow me to stretch the leg without hurting or pulling that tight spot. So see if that works for you. So this belt trick usually really helps regain flexibility on an injured leg or an injured hamstring or a very, very tight hamstring. So towards you and down, keep the leg that's on the wall very active and pressing against the wall. Active knees, lift that kneecap. Anytime you have a chance to practice lifting the kneecap, do so. So you're thinking of the top leg and the tightness in your hamstring, and you're thinking of the leg that's on the wall here, and you're making that leg active too. All right, if you get those things down, and you can work on one aspect at a time, you can work on one aspect per breath, you can work on anything you choose. So I'm going to give you another one. Soften the eyes, the ears, the throat, soften the abdomen, and the groin of the legs. So both groins, right groin, left groin. Don't store tension there. All right, if your hamstrings are even tighter than that and you're still sticking around, I will show you something else you can do. I have videos where I show you how to do it on the frame of the door, but you can also use a chair. And you can pad the chair because in the beginning, when we have tightness, even the hardness of the chair sometimes is too much. So put that leg on the wall. And you can bring this leg to the chair and then use the chair there as support. If your leg is shaking too much on a certain day because maybe you're sore or maybe something happened to the leg, this is a great way to work also. So use the support, build your strength, and then you can remove the chair. So it's definitely a valid and great way to work also. And you can use the belt here to pull that tightness back down. So here, when we do this pose, we can really tell if we are bringing the pinky side of the foot towards the wall or the toe side. So if that's the case, really watch that foot and really bring the pinky side so that the foot is on its natural plane, right? It's not twisted in or out. So that's very important, especially when it comes to knee injuries and that sort of thing. We want to keep that plane of the foot, straight, not pronated or over pronated or tilted. Okay, and come back, and we'll work on our second leg one more time. And I moved the chair with my leg, and I apologize for, so please don't do that. So come up and move the chair. Come up. Reorganize the chair over here. And that was what not to do. Okay, so really engage the right leg onto the wall. Make the right leg very active. Lift those kneecaps. Use your belt around your left leg and go ahead and rest that left leg on the chair. If your leg is shaky or if it's really tight and you need to build that strength in the leg. So there we are. So, and if you need to use the belt here on the hamstring, pulling that tightness down and back, making sure the belt is above the tight spot. And then looking at that right foot and making sure that the pinky side or the toe side aren't stretching more so that that foot is not distorting, right? So that it's in a straight plane. And if the best you can do is to have that, then start there and slowly breathe and bring the foot back to straight plane. And it'll be super intense. And so take a breath, inhale, exhale, reorganize the foot so that the toes are spread and the foot is, on its intended plane. And then bend the knees. Bend both the knees to the chest. Take a breath here where your eyes, your ears, and your throat are soft. Then on your next breath, make sure that you soften the abdomen so you don't have any active muscles in the abdominal area, that they're very soft. And on your next breath, soften the groin so that the groin is deep and soft and free from any tension. And notice that deep space and softness in the groin, and then bring these quads closer to the chest. And you can hug behind on your hamstrings as well if that's easier. Soften the groin and bring the quads closer to the abdomen. Soften eyes, ears, throat, roll to your right side. And come up. And so for this video, we'll do one more hamstring exercise to really start getting these hamstrings lengthened. So these, and then we'll incorporate hamstrings, the body, and the arms. Okay. So you can use a chair, or you can use a little bench. Okay, so any kind of height. You can use a few blocks. You can use, you know, any kind of firm support that you have. I'm going to recommend, if your hamstrings are tight, I'll recommend some height underneath the sit bones. And then if you have blocks available, just have those handy. So I'm going to sit back on my blanket into Dandasana. So in the first video, we worked in this Dandasana, learning how to lift the kneecaps. I'm going to make sure that my mat is aligned with the wall and the bench so that we start out with good alignment. Okay, and then align your blanket so that, you know, we don't have a twisted blanket. So both sides of the sit bones can be in an equal height. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start out with my legs straight here. So legs straight, kneecaps lifted. If this is difficult, add a little bit more height. Okay, so I'm going to take a few breaths here and release any tension in my eyes, my ears, my throat, and any tension in the abdomen. I'm going to work on lifting the spine here. I'm not going to lift the spine. I take that back. I think a better command is lift the chest. We'll leave the spine as it is. We'll just, if anything, we release the spine. So I think we all, at least I'm careful anytime I hear lift the spine. I think the more important thing is lifting the chest, which means this clavicle area here, lift that. And then release the spine so that the spine can just be in its natural curve. Okay, release eyes, ears, and throat. So then bring the right leg to this bent position. And I can use a belt if that's going to help me. And I'm going to use this height. Again, if this height is too much, then decrease the height. Okay, so I'm going to work here first. And what I'm working on is lifting this kneecap and really pushing through the heel. So I am bringing the top of my thigh down towards the ground. So I'm grounding the femur, making sure that the muscles here aren't bunching up, so that it's kind of this motion of bring this down, leg comes up, right? Not feet come up. It's almost like those seesaws that we played in as kids. I'm not sure, I don't see them in parks too much anymore, but this part comes down, the other part comes up. So that we ground the femur, knee is very straight, not hyperextending. If you're hyperextending, then lift the kneecap and don't hyperextend the knee here. And the way we do that, we think of this joint as if it were to be fused, and you have one straight bone, and you're trying to stretch the heel further, or trying to stretch the bone further than the heel, so that you have that one long bone that's coming out through your heel without any kind of, it's just an imagination, okay? So no goriness. So stretch the bone further than the heel and make sure that we're not stretching pinky side further or toe side further. We're really working on balancing that foot. Bring the kneecaps up, and then we'll do the second side. So lift the kneecaps. If you want support of the wall, you can come forward a little bit. Okay, and use support of the wall. Lift the kneecap. Neutralize the feet so that we're not having pinky side tilting or thumb, big toe side. Then sit on the front of the sit bones more than the back, so we're not rounding the back here. Try to lift the back, so it's not only like a really good exercise to strengthen the back and keep it lifted. If your back is starting to hurt, lower the leg. All right. And then go ahead and bring the leg down. And then we'll repeat the exercise, making this higher and higher, right? So use the height that works for you. Make sure that you're not rounding your back here. And really straighten the knee. Make sure that you're not having even a micro bend in that leg. If you have to bend the knee, then lower your height. Don't bend the knee here. We're practicing keeping that knee very straight. Make sure the foot is on its plane, right? As if you have the floor here, so you're not collapsing the ankle or collapsing the outer foot. Okay, so we're here for a few breaths. Go ahead and change sides. And inhale, soften eyes, ears, throat. Press the right foot into the wall. Lift both kneecaps. Soften eyes, ears, throat, abdomen. And make sure here, when you're using the belt, that you're not bringing the shoulders forward, shoulders back. So you can really get a nice hamstring lengthening here. Lengthen, we think of lengthening through the back of the leg. So lengthen the back of the leg much more. Push through that heel. And when you're ready, go ahead and come out. And then sit in Dandasana for a minute. And if you have to, come into a downward dog to rest the back. At any time, if you're doing this again and the back is really talking to you, you can do one side, stop, go into downward dog, and then, or you can go into child's pose, and then come back and do the second side. All right, if you're able to sit in Virasana, then we will do this pose in Virasana. So we sit in Virasana is like this, right? Sometimes you can have a block or maybe 2 blocks. Bring your feet behind you. So make sure that you're not flipping your foot out. Foot is pointing back, and sit here in Virasana. If this is very difficult for you, then you can add maybe 1 more block, but I wouldn't go more than 3 blocks. But this is a great place to practice. If this is really difficult, the way that I would practice is come out, bring your right leg out without any pain to the knee, sit with only 1 leg in this pose, okay? So if sitting with only 1 leg in this pose, and then bring the other leg and we're gonna repeat the same exercise in this Virasana pose. So now we're stretching the quads, which balance the stretch in the hamstring. So this is a very important counter pose to stretching the hamstring so that you get both. Okay, so I will use 1 block, and I will stretch here. If I want extra height, I can work here. If I can go higher, I can come closer to the wall, and I can use the wall here. Right, so I can really press my heel into the wall and work this leg with the wall. So whatever level that you're comfortable with. Right, so here we breathe. We bring the top of that femur down towards the block. Soften eyes, ear, throat, lift the knees. And then go ahead and bring this leg down. Come up, we're gonna switch sides. Coming out very carefully so that I'm not hurting my knee. Sitting on my block. And here, working at the height that is right for my body. And I can, okay, so start straightening the knee. Keep that knee very, very straight. the top of my Virasana foot is down against the ground, and then I can use the same trick. If I cannot straighten my leg here, I bring the belt to, if the tighter spot is here, I put the belt above the tight spot. So it's tight spots here, belt above, pull the belt towards me and down towards the ground, and stretch that tightness. Heel against the floor, feet are not, pinky side or big toe side are not rotating. And I lift the chest and straighten the hamstring. Soften the eyes, the ears, the throat. And then when I'm ready, I bring my leg down and I carefully come out of this pose. Okay. And that's how we, that's how we can work on the hamstring and create more length in the back of the leg so that we can fold forward much easier. So to finish this practice, I will place a block here on my stool. I will come into Tadasana, feet a little distance apart, and then make my legs very active. So use all the things that I've learned. Both feet into the ground, make the legs very active. Lift the kneecap. Lift the kneecap, start grounding the top of the femur back, legs active like a fist, kneecaps lifted. And notice, when is it that I drop the kneecaps? I don't know if you can see. So kneecaps are up, kneecaps are dropped. So I come back up, lift the kneecaps without hyperextending the calf or knee. Keep the legs active, lift the chest, kneecaps lifted. Am I dropping? Okay. Keeping them lifted. Who is going to drop first, right or left, right? So, right one. Keep the kneecaps lifted, back of the leg very, very active. And where is it that I can bring this forward fold where I'm not rounding the back and I'm not collapsing these kneecaps? So then stretch through the back of the leg, lift the kneecaps. Here's me collapsing. Here's me lifting the kneecap. Keep the leg active. And practice your forward folds like this. So breathing, kneecaps are lifting, back, top of the femurs going back towards the back of the leg. Legs are active. 4 points of the feet. There's no collapse in my inner ankle. And then when I come up, put both hands on my sacrum and I push this down. So here I'm in horizontal pose. I come up by pushing this back. All right, so I hope that you're getting a little bit of an insight into forward folds for sun salutations. I hope this work helps build that intelligence in the body so that we can forward fold in sun salutations much, not so casually, with intention. Let me know if these videos are helpful, and see you on the next video.